Some stories are never finished. They're just filed away. Welcome to Chronicles of the Obscure. Imagine a quiet Sunday morning in San Francisco, August 16th, 1942. The world is at war. The Pacific is a battleground, and the people of the Bay Area live with a constant, low-humming fear of a Japanese attack. Watching over them, serving as the city's eyes in the sky, is the Navy's L-8 Blimp. At 6:03 a.m., Lieutenant Ernest, Cody, and Ensign Charles Adams lift off from Treasure Island on what should be a routine patrol. The weather is clear, the skies are calm. At 7:38 a.m., they radio in, reporting an oil slick on the water below, a potential sign of an enemy submarine. It's the last time anyone ever hears their voices. 5 hours later, something strange happens. The L-8 Blimp, now deflated and sagging, drifts aimlessly back over the coastline. It scrapes across a golf course, startling players, before finally coming to a crumpled rest on a suburban street in Daly City. The first witnesses rush to the scene. When they reach the cabin, they find the engines are still warm. The radio is humming with life, but the cabin itself is a vacuum. 2 men went up. 0 came down. To understand this impossible mystery, we have to examine what was left behind. Let's open the evidence locker for the L-8. First, the cabin door. When the Blimp was found, the door was latched wide open. Now, it was unheard of for pilots to open the door to get a better look or drop markers on things like oil slicks, but to leave it open while flying over land? That was highly unusual and incredibly dangerous. Second, the safety gear. Every pilot's greatest fear is going into the water. Yet, inside the cabin, the parachutes and the inflatable life raft were still in their designated racks, completely untouched. If the pilots had jumped or fallen, they did so without their primary means of survival. This detail just doesn't add up. Third, the radio. As soon as they could, naval investigators tested the equipment. It was in perfect working order. There were no distress signals, no reports of mechanical failure, not even a static-filled scream for help. The line was open, but the men were silent. What could have happened so fast, so suddenly, that 2 experienced officers couldn't send a single word? And fourth, the Blimp itself. It still had enough fuel for several more hours of flight. The emergency ballast, heavy sandbags used to control altitude, was still on board. This wasn't a craft that was forced down by a malfunction or lack of fuel. This was a perfectly functional aircraft that had simply lost its masters. The evidence doesn't point to a clear answer. Instead, it creates a web of competing possibilities. Let's walk through them on the theory board. Theory number 1, the freak accident. This became the official, likely scenario from the Navy. The idea is that one pilot, maybe Lieutenant Cody, leaned out too far to inspect the oil slick or fix a minor external issue. He slipped and began to fall. The second pilot, Ensign Adams, lunged to save him, but in the chaos, was pulled out as well. It's a tragic, simple, and logical explanation, but it has holes. It fails to explain why there was no radio call. Even a split second would have been enough for a shout. And why didn't either man, in that desperate moment, manage to grab a life jacket or a parachute on their way out? Theory number 2, the Japanese capture. We have to remember the context. In 1942, Japanese submarines were a very real threat off the California coast. This theory suggests that Cody and Adams spotted a sub, were somehow forced to land on the water, and were then taken prisoner. It's a dramatic, wartime scenario. The problem? Hundreds of people on the shore were watching the Blimp that morning. Not a single witness reported seeing it touch the water, nor did anyone see a submarine surface. For 2 men to be captured in broad daylight without a single eyewitness seems almost impossible. And that brings us to theory number 3, the internal struggle. Did something happen inside that tiny cabin? Was there a fight? A sudden, violent disagreement, or a moment of madness? Investigators meticulously combed the cabin for evidence. They found it tidy. The pilots' caps were resting neatly on the dashboard where they had left them. There was no blood, no signs of a struggle, and no indication that a third person had ever been on board. If a fight did happen, it was a perfectly silent, perfectly clean one, leaving no trace behind. The case was officially closed, but the questions never went away. In the modern era, the mystery of the L-8 has become a cornerstone of military urban legends and unsolved files. For over 80 years, historians and researchers have scoured Japanese war records, desperately looking for any mention of 2 American pilots captured near San Francisco. They have found nothing. Decades of Coast Guard searches and sonar scans of the Pacific floor have never yielded any remains, flight suits, or debris connected to the men. Modern re-evaluations of the Blimp's flight path, using weather data and drift patterns, suggest it was floating aimlessly for hours before it finally hit land. This means that whatever happened to Cody and Adams, it happened very quickly, right after that final 7:38 a.m. radio call. In that one missing window of time, in the skies over the Pacific, 2 experienced officers simply ceased to exist in the eyes of the world. The story of the L-8 is a chilling reminder that even in a world of radar and radio, of procedure and protocol, the horizon can still swallow a story whole. It stands as a monument to the limits of our knowledge and a testament to the unsettling reality that sometimes the sky doesn't give back what it takes. So, what do you believe happened to Lieutenant Cody and Ensign Adams? Was it a tragic fall, or were they taken by an unseen enemy? Share your theory in the comments below. Type "lost" if you think they fell, or "taken" if you believe they were captured. Thanks for joining us. Subscribe to Chronicles of the Obscure for more journeys into the lost and the unexplained.